Year 7 of Destiny is nearing its end, with Year 8 just around the corner and Frontiers not that far behind. In the spirit of that, I did a video already on episodic weapons, basically saying which ones I think are the best of the group that you should try and get before Frontiers. If you have all of the episodes anyways, you should probably just try to get all of those weapons, but if you have limited time or anything like that, or you just want to see which ones I think are best, you can go watch that video. I'll link that in the description. So these videos are really just to give you a feel for the weapons that are really good right now, and the ones that you should get if you're a returning player or a new player that you should focus, because most of these are S tier in endgame, and I'm only ranking them based off of my personal preference and all that, so take it with a grain of salt. Some of these weapons might be more your favorite or more your speed. That's fair, and there might be some that don't make the list that maybe you enjoy using, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, unless you're just using the most obscure weapon that does like one thing that's good and just maybe isn't good in the first place. But if you have fun using it, who am I to say? It's also a great way to just catalog where we were at with the meta at the time and what was good around this time. Certainly looking back on this at any point, the meta will probably change next year around this time, so it's always fun to go back and see how things evolve and change in this game, because they inevitably do. But without further ado, let's get into the first weapon on the list at number 10 with Unworthy, a scout rifle from the Sundered Doctrine dungeon. Arguably, these weapons have one of the best origin traits in the game, essentially against weaker targets, giving free explosive payload, as weak targets, which are basically red bars, will explode to stronger targets, or just strong targets, like orange bars and whatnot. Those targets will become exhausted, and to guardians, the weapon's flinch resistance will increase, which is pretty nice. I wish there was a sniper for this, but I don't think sniping's great in PvP right now anyways. I also think stronger targets, I'm not sure if it includes bosses or not, maybe someone can answer that question for everyone, but yeah, exhaust is actually really good. It does essentially what Sever does as well, so very cool. I've seen a lot of people going for Firefly and Volt Shot, simply because the reload speed is insane. With that, you can see that Firefly bumps the reload speed by a ton. When you get a precision kill, you also get the explosion from it, and of course, that's going to help you proc Volt Shot. It's also a rapid fire frame, so it's going to help with the reload as well. If you are looking for a PvP role, there are plenty of things to go for here. Keep Away Precision Instrument would be pretty solid. You could go with Rapid Hit Precision Instrument. A lot of these other perks, I really don't know what they're doing on here. I mean, heating up, maybe. I don't think many people are using this in PvP. Maybe it's not that bad, but definitely Firefly Volt Shot for you PvE enjoyers out there. Number 9 is another primary from Garden of Salvation, Ancient Gospel, which for a long time was solar until they reworked it last episode in Revenant, as they also reworked the entirety of the Garden of Salvation arsenal. This thing is actually really fun in PvP. Me being a controller user, of course, Eye of the Storm to the Pain is really fun. Lone Wolf Closing Time is solid. There's a whole bunch of other options here for PvP. Rapid Hit Kill Clip, which isn't great on 140s, but if this was a 120, that'd be insane. So probably not this combo. Destabilizing and Explosive Payload are the most common combinations I've seen for PvE, and yeah, it's the best. I don't think anyone's running like Demo Swashbuckler. Maybe you could do Destab Harmony. I don't know. There's literally no other perk in this slot except for maybe Swashbuckler that works really well for PvE. So just getting the damage bonus from Explosive Payload is pretty nice, and Destab is just so good right now with the buff to Destab now only being a 1.5 second cooldown between activations. Any gun with destabilizing is just insane right now, and so that adds this to the list. The origin trait isn't the greatest, although if you're doing an endgame activity, with a bunch of shields, void shields in particular, or any shields, then this will be insanely good for disorienting, as well as getting that little damage boost as well. So yeah, this is just a solid hand cannon, and kind of what we expected Palindrome to be, a powerhouse and just clearing ads, as well as, you know, just solid stats, but obviously not on the level of stats that Palindrome has, which Palindrome is not on this list. So sorry for all you Palindrome lovers. I just haven't used it that much, and I may be a little exhausted from using it so much in D1 and when it first came back, but Ancient Gospel is a breath of fresh air. And the model for me, I have mentioned in the past, the way it looks when you're shooting it is a little off. I know some people don't like the sound, whatever. It is still a very, very solid hand cannon, and not my favorite, that's why it's at 9, but it is super solid. So we have another rapid fire frame at number 8. It's the Chill Inhibitor, of course, which famously everyone got the God roll for because of the scandal with the weight gate, and come on. We're glad that's over with. We got our free rolls and we don't have to grind. We got our free God rolls, thank God. Didn't have to farm for them. Love to see it. I don't know about you, but I'd already done like 40 clears trying to get this roll, and I still don't have, I think I have 60 clears now. Still have not gotten one to drop, so I'm very happy they gave everyone the Envious Arsenal bait and switch combo. Origin trait, not great for DPS at all. That's why this isn't high on the list, because there are better weapons to use. At least I think so. But if you're doing a burst DPS phase, this is not a bad option whatsoever. There are better weapons though for burst damage, and we'll get to those towards the end of the list. But again, if you have only access to Vesper's Host dungeon, then this is a solid pickup if you don't have access to anything else. But the other one that we'll mention later on in the list is also free, so, you know, you should try to get that one. But again, very solid weapon from a very solid dungeon. Next one is also from Vesper's Host. We have the Velocity Baton Grenade Launcher, which, you know, there are so many solid rolls for this now as well. If you wanted to go something ad clear inspired, you could go Repulsor D-Stab or Demo D-Stab. Me personally, I love Demolitionist Attrition Orbs. It's a very solid roll as well. And this is a weapon where the origin trait is actually going to come in handy. If you're using Demo, you're pretty much going to have your grenade up at all times, meaning that this origin trait, Bray Legacy, here is probably going to be helping out your melee or your class ability. So again, not bad at all. This weapon though only gives 0.365%, which if you round up is 0.4% of your ability energy gain. So it's not massive, but it's hits, and the way aerial denial frames hit enemies, it's actually decent, as it does not require a direct hit either. So this is probably the best weapon to proc Bray Legacy on, but Attrition Orbs goes really well with this. Again, D-Stab with its buff is just really solid too. I'm not sure how damage feels with Bait and Switch active, but maybe it's not horrible. I just think this is a better ad clear option, and you know, you can slap it on a boss when you're doing damage with, you know, let's say Queen Breaker or whatever, to get a little extra AoE damage while you're doing damage with some other weapon. Next up, we are back in the primary category with Unloved, and yeah, the Subjugation origin trait, again, just coming in clutch. I think even without the origin trait, this hand cannon would be pretty solid. If you're looking for an ad clear inspired weapon, you could go with Dragonfly Tear or Dragonfly Paracausal Affinity. If you're looking for more of a damage inspired roll, I think that Rapid Hit Elemental Honing for a Lucky Pants type build would be pretty decent as well. Outlaw, if you get that instead, but Outlaw is just not nearly as good as Rapid Hit is, especially since this is a burst frame hand cannon. You're going to enjoy the benefits more of Rapid Hit for the stability and reload as well. As you can see, the base reload of this thing is not great. Even if you put Flared Magwell on it, you're only going to get 15, which is not great. So you can see that Rapid Hit helps this thing a ton with its reload speed. So I would definitely recommend that. Even if you only get the 1 stack, 50 is pretty decent. You have a strand loader on or something, it's not bad. But you should be getting that Rapid Hit up to 5 at all times anyway. So you don't even need something like Flared Magwell on anyway. You could just do something that helps out with your stability or something along those lines. But yeah, very solid. PvP, I don't think this archetype of hand cannon is any good. But, you know, Killing Wind Closing Time could be decent. Killing Wind Kill Clip. There are decent perks on here, but again, I just, this archetype isn't great with the Heavy Burst. 120s just beat out everything right now. So yeah. And I haven't really been talking about Masterworks on this, but for most of these primaries, since we are doing mostly PvE weapons, stability is the best masterwork for most of these primaries. Reload speed for Unworthy, just to help out with Volt Shot procs, and you know, if you're looking at a PvP role for maybe Unloved or Unworthy, range or handling, depending on your playstyle, is probably the other 2 choices, range being the better of the 2. Next up, we have the Lotus Eater Sidearm, the newest in the family of rocket sidearms, and there are 4 in the game now, and there are 2 on the list. I don't think you really have to guess that much as to what the other one on the list is, but you'll find out soon enough. Lotus Eater, I haven't had too much time to play around with it, and I'll be real, the rocket sidearm fatigue has started to set in for me. I'm someone who just loves to switch up their loadout all the time, and you know, they're just so strong that you can turn off your brain when you're using them, and you know, it's fun to use other things sometimes. I've been enjoying a lot of different glaives every now and then, going back to aerial denial frames because those weapons are just so good. Obviously they're not nearly as good as rocket sidearms, but you know, Lotus Eater is sitting at number 5 on the list. Obviously, Repulsor D-Stab is really nice. You can get some utility with Shoot to Loot, which probably isn't the best, but if you're someone who doesn't have a Shoot to Loot weapon, definitely get a roll of that on there. Reconstruction D-Stab if you don't want to reload. One for All is a bit of a sleeper pick here. Not crazy good, but if you want to do a little bit more damage, you get that 35% damage increase there as well. And if you want to weaken a ton, Withering Gaze is a solid choice as well. If you're building into some class ability and your grenade, or maybe just one of these 2, these perks aren't horrible, but this is probably the worst roll that you could get. D-Stab is definitely what you want on this weapon if you can get it. Stability or Velocity Masterwork. Obviously, if you get one of these, you're good. If you do get like reload speed or something, don't worry too much. As long as you get the perks that you're looking for, you're in a good spot. And as for the origin trait that you want to run, if you're just chilling in low level stuff, Vanguard's Vindication is pretty good. If you're doing a GM, Stunning Recovery, I think, just does everything that you want from Vanguard's Vindication, just better. 10 HP isn't that crazy, but Stunning a Champion will refill your mag, grant you 60 health, or restore 60 health, and then 40 recov. So if you have low recov on your build, definitely slap this on. This is a really solid origin trait, and you can probably just slap it on and forget about it and never change them again, because I mean, really, this origin trait needs some help probably, but you know, since Stunning Recovery is always here in that second slot, you can just slap that on instead. Next up, we're back on the primary train with Reckless Oracle. And Reckless Oracle is interesting because you can actually combine D-Stab with some pretty solid damage buffs. You could do D-Stab Paracausal Affinity, which is going to grant you a 20% damage increase. You can also do D-Stab One for All, which is what I have on mine, because you get 35% damage increase as well. And PvP folks, I honestly just whatever. I'm not running this gun in PvP. D-Stab Repulsor is a very, very safe pick. If you're having trouble surviving and maybe some solo content, I actually use this weapon a ton in my Vesper's Host solo runs, solo flawless runs, and this came in really clutch at just keeping overshield up at all times. And you know, you add in One for All with photo inhibition, and you can actually get a really solid damage buff. So if you don't need Repulsor Brace, which again is the role I had initially when I was doing some solo flawless stuff, switching to One for All is so solid. And I just love this archetype of auto rifles. They're really fun. So we're entering number 3 on the list, and that is of course going to go to the best sniper in the game, and at least right now it is the best. Kratos Revenge is so solid with its origin trait, which overflows your magazine after you super or when your super expires. It will also, you know, double your magazine size for a long duration and reload your weapon from reserves, which again, solid. So the benefit of this is that you can pop your super, you know, wait for it to run out. And obviously you might think envious bait and switch, right? I actually did kinetic tremors bait and switch to get a little extra damage from both of these. And, you know, it's not horrible. I think depending on your situation, you might want to go envious bait and switch. That's probably just the better combination. But if you want to do a little extra damage, kinetic tremors bait and switch, because of what time lost magazine gives you. You don't really have to worry about reloading too much. So this sniper is just so good. Stability or reload speed, either of these for your masterwork. You get this from Vault of Glass, so of course you can just go farm that and craft the one you want. You don't have to worry about getting you know, a 5/5 roll. You can just craft it. So yeah, this sniper is insane for damage rotations, and you'll love to see it. Number 2 is another Vault of Glass weapon. And man, these weapons went from mid when they first came out to now being some of the best in the game, simply because of time lost magazine. Of course, they'd probably be pretty good regardless of it, but it certainly helps a ton. So we're gonna obviously take advantage of time loss. You can do envious bait and switch, and you know, you can throw in Kratos into this rotation with maybe something like Choir of One to do even more damage. And yeah, this is pretty insane. This weapon is just great at doing damage right now. And when I was talking about Chill Inhibitor and I was saying there's a better weapon for burst damage, Hezen Vengeance is definitely that weapon for now. And rockets are maybe not in the best place overall, but this one is by far the best one in the game. Cold Comfort, which will be getting a reprisal in the Rite of the Nine event. At least I think it's getting a reprisal. Maybe it isn't, but if it were to get a reprisal with its origin trait, that was insane. But this one is basically Cold Comfort at its peak when it was really good, but kind of better because it can be enhanced and get the benefits from being enhanced. Probably looking again for a velocity rework on this thing, because you don't really have to ever reload. That would be the only other thing I would recommend on this. But yeah, before we get to number 1, we're going to do some honorable mentions. Starting with Nullify, the heavy burst pulse rifle from Salvation's Edge. This thing is just solid all around. The origin trait, not the best in my opinion, but it does get one of the best perks in the game in Chaos Reshaped, which is basically Frenzy but better. The longer you're in combat, you get a bonus damage scaler, which is going to scale up based on how long you are in combat. Or ×1, you get 20% increased damage. When you're at ×2, you'll get 35% increased damage, as well as a periodic burst of healing. The burst is released every 7 seconds for a 35 HP heal or upon stowing the weapon, releasing the built up health. So very solid perk. You could pair that with heal clip if you just want to be mega safe, but a really good combo that you'll see with a lot of solar weapons of recent is heal clip in can, and can for a little extra damage and some scorch, and maybe set off some ignitions if you're using solar, and heal clip to play it a little safe. But obviously, again, you can go with these two if you want to pair those together. Desperate Measures is a solid option if you want to get some extra damage that way. But honestly, Chaos Reshapes, does the same thing. Actually, gives you more damage and it gives you healing. So, if you wanted to go rapid hit Chaos Reshaped to make the reload insane and the stability really good, and get healing and get a damage boost, yeah, this thing is very, very solid. It just didn't make the list because I don't think that the origin trait is that great. Maybe solid in PvP. If you're wondering what to run for PvP on this, honestly, I don't know, man. I don't know why multi-equip is on weapons anymore. Like, does anyone use this perk legitimately? I think it might be the most underutilized perk in the game because it's so hard to proc in PvP. I feel like that's where you'd use it the most. Because am I going to use this for damage on like a champion? No. So yeah, just please use this weapon in PvE only. I don't know who's trying to use that in PvP. But yeah, solid combos here for sure. Next up on the honorable mention list is Rake Angle. This is very similar to a weapon, or the weapon that'll be at number 1 in the fact that it has chill clip, and it just makes this glaive amazing. You can pair this with so many things. If you're using a stasis build, Rhyme Stealer is not a bad call, although I don't know if I like Rhyme Stealer on a special weapon, to be completely honest. Replenishing Aegis is really solid as well. You'd obviously want to pair that with Unstoppable Force, but again, Chill Clip is just so good on this glaive that I would not recommend anything else. Lead from Gold if you want a little help with the ammo economy. Overflow if you just don't want to have to reload that often to begin with. Basically anything with Chill Clip except maybe Impulse Amplifier for PvE, and you'll be pretty solid. You are playing PvP, I think any of these options here are a solid choice, but I don't use glaives in PvP, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. Probably Shield Duration Masterwork if you can get that, but this thing with Chill Clip can stun overloads, it can stun unstops. You also have a really solid shield if you get the right perks on it, and being able to just have that shield up whenever you want. Glaives are definitely underrated. They got a buff in Heresy and they're a lot better. They might not be the best, but this is really solid if you can't get the weapon that I'm about to show at number 1. Last but not least on the honorable mentions is the Call Sidearm. It was the progenitor of Rocket Sidearms. That's not true. The second Rocket Sidearm to exist, it was supposed to be Vestian Dynasty, I think, or something like that before the delay for Final Shape. But this is a really solid sidearm. You can put something like Slice One for All, or Slice Desperate Measures, maybe Lead from Gold Vorpal if you want an easier damage boost to proc on certain things, because Desperate Measures does take a few steps. One for All takes a bunch of adds, or at least some enemies hanging out together. Vorpal you can just proc on certain bosses and vehicles and whatnot. Golden Tricorn was one that I thought might be decent on this because Golden Tricorn gets an insane amount of damage with 50. It's easily the most out of any of these buffs here, but it's just not that great. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone can tell me if I am, and maybe I'll switch mine to that. Velocity Masterwork again for PvE, and that's probably the only place you're going to be using a Rocket Sidearm anyways. So yeah, we got one more Rocket Sidearm on this list. There's so many, and the next one is arguably the best. Yeah, it's Tinashe's Mastery. I mean, the Chill Clip thing with Rake Angle probably gave it away, but you're still here watching the video maybe just to make sure that it was Tinashe's, and it should be. And just like Rake Angle and any weapon with Chill Clip, this thing is going to be able to stun overloads as well as unstops and just freeze and slow enemies and kill things really, really fast. Loose Change is pretty solid to slap on with this, as it gives you a reload buff as well as some aim assist, which I guess is cool. Deconstruct is a slept on one if you're killing some brigs or something along those lines. Enlightened Action might not be horrible, so you can get that up to 12. I didn't know that was a thing, actually. That's insane. And they did change Skulking Wolf to where it does also make it harder for enemies to target you in PvE. As you can see here, combatants become less accurate when targeting you, so it does have a little bit of a benefit on that side as well. Shield Clip or bust, honestly, but Desperate Measures isn't bad. One for All is okay. Frenzy, you know, meh. But honestly, if you're not having Shield Clip on this, what are you doing? And yeah, Air Trigger is nice for the magazine bonus that it will give you. It will give you a reload speed bonus, but I haven't gotten one, so I can't speak to how good it is over, you know, Loose Change or Deconstruct. But basically any of those three, Air Trigger, Deconstruct, Loose Change, or, you know, even Enlightened Action would be nice in that slot. As long as you have Chill Clip on this thing, though, it's just incredibly fun and solid to use. So yeah, those are my top 10 weapons with some honorable mentions from Year 7 of Destiny, with Year 8 just around the corner. If you enjoyed the video and you want to stick around for more stuff, Destiny related stuff, then make sure you subscribe, and see you in the next one.